just, trying to find a place with like-minded people to talk about like-minded things, about me, about poop and stuff.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
Oh man, what's this right here? Is this a podcast about poop?
And now, Shooting the Shit with Dave and Ellen.
Yes. It's that time again. We're here live with Dr. Evan Goldstein
of Bespoke Surgical
and
the Future Method.
We couldn't be happier to have him as a guest.
But we're here on episode 37, but it'll always be number 2 to us. And this is Shooting the Shit with
Dave
and Ellen.
And we couldn't, like I said, we couldn't be happier to have you here.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
And let's do a quick check-in with our guest first. How have your poops been recently?
Oh, very, very good. I do my usual fiber supplementation. I told you before the show that I did some plant-based. I love this new restaurant called La Botanist.
Ooh.
Do you know it?
I've heard of this place. I've yet to go. A friend of mine told me about this place.
It is so
it's great.
Amazing. It comes with like soup, and then I have like the Tibetan mama, which I love.
Ooh.
And then it really helps with the poops. And so I think on your scale, it's been number 4. Once a day in the morning, looks like the sausage.
Oh, I love that.
I like it.
I love a perfect
I am a morning person too, but I usually wind up going like 2 to 3 times a day, depending on,
Wow.
probably 8. But
he's very regular.
Yeah.
but for me, it was more like a 5. It's okay. I'll get back to the 4 though.
You're always a little loose in the caboose.
Yeah, loose in the caboose.
I had a gorgeous number 4 on Monday after not pooping at all on Sunday. And on Saturday, I tried the Future Method and was actually very surprised how clean it was, which I'll talk to you about that later. But on Monday, I had to go and it literally fell out of me. And I thought it was going to maybe be like 3 inches long. It was like 14 inches long. Went down the toilet, through the water, and came up out of the water. And I couldn't believe it. Yes, thank you.
Yes, your poop. Did you feel fucking liberated?
I did, but it was like I just want to poop like that every day. But then since then, I've been like crampy and miserable, which I'll go into in my Let's Get Shitty. Dr. Evan Goldstein of Bespoke Surgical, tell us all about yourself.
Sure. So, in terms of how I got to where I am now, it really stemmed towards years ago. I was kind of understanding my own sexuality. I was actually married to a woman, and during that time I realized that wasn't me, and I came out. I met my current partner. We have 2 kids together, and during that time I looked at the community and realized that there was a huge gap and a huge void in non-judgmental, non-biased care towards the community. And I started to realize, like, where are people going for if they're hurt, if they get injured? Where do people going just to learn about anal sex, anal play, and how do you minimize risk? And realized that nobody was actually doing it. And it was just interesting to me because when you looked at the timeline of this, especially in my gay space, most people were really afflicted by HIV and dying, right? And so the gay medicine that started was geared towards that.
Right.
But now it's a chronic disease, it's manageable, and we are all living. And this is actually the first generation of living gays. Right?
Yeah, right.
And which is kind of interesting. And so all of these things that you would never think of are starting to come into, well, we need people to help us, right? The aging gay male, the injured gay male, right? And sexual education and sexual wellness was so lacking that I said, well, who's actually delivering this care? And I realized that nobody was doing it. And nobody was really doing it to the degree that I felt that people wanted it to, which is, how do you make it look really fucking good? Right? How do you make it appetizing and pleasing? But then how do you make it functional?
Yeah.
And then if it gets injured, just like anything else, how do we make sure we have the support for people to go to credible people that have the knowledge and the science to now get them back to where they
And don't feel
to be.
ashamed. We actually had a guest who had a sex toy accident. And he'd gone to like 2 places before he actually had it surgically removed, and he just felt like there was no actual.
There isn't.
Yeah, just kind of like this, shame almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the shame, the stigma, all of this stuff just needs to be dropped at the door. You know, I mean, the
Completely.
realistic picture is I don't care what you stick up your ass. I will support you 150%. And I will analyze it in a way that we can now look at mitigating risk. So you're actually getting as much pleasure as you can with the lowest amount of risk of trauma and or STDs, etc. And that was what also spawned off Future Method, which stemmed from me looking at how people engage anally. And it's not just the act of anal sex. It's actually how do people prepare for anal sex, and through douching and cleansing. And when you look at STD risk or you look at HIV risk, you realize that it's actually not the act of anal sex. It's actually the preparation. And that was what was speared from the Future Method, which was how do we analyze sexual practices in different communities? And how do we not just say, oh, yeah, just put on a condom? Well, 72% of gay men don't wear condoms. So you can preach all you want, but at the end of the day, it's more of how do we support how communities engage?
Yeah.
And the science of sex, analyzing those communities, really spearheaded the birth of Future Method. And our first product is the anal douche, which is a solution that is not toxic to the insides. When you looked at STD risk or you look at HIV risk, it's quite high simply because people are not using the right solutions.
I had no idea.
Right.
I mean, you know, from as far back as health class, you just thought like, you know, put a condom on. That's the thing that's gonna, you know, which obviously.
And also with condoms, like with me, I have a latex allergy, so I use the neoprene.
Right.
When I used to use condoms, I've had the same partner for 8.5 years. So, but like condoms can rip too.
Totally.
So, yeah.
And most people don't use it. And anal sex with condoms doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, sex itself with condoms doesn't
Yeah.
feel good. And so I can understand why people don't want to use them. And the reality is that most aren't. So now we have to think of novel ways to say, oh, well, okay, how do we make sure that your douching solution is not increasing your risk,
Yeah.
right? You know, the problem is that branding of water, everyone looks at water and you think it's super clean. But anally, what happens is it irritates the cells. It changes the microbiome, right? We have good cells, we have good bacteria, we have bad bacteria, right? And that stays in a homeostatic equilibrium, right?
Okay.
When that's off, all of a sudden things start to become an issue where there's irritation, STD risk goes up, there's cracking, and the protective layer that is actually there to support shitting and sex starts getting washed away with either water or store-bought enemas.
Wow.
And
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that-
crazy.
I really had no idea about that. That's
right.
nuts.
And a lot of people use the shower hoses. People
Oh yeah,
love
we
that.
had a shower shot. The same guy who got the sex toy stuck up him and went to the doctor and had to get it surgically removed.
He's a big fan of
He's a
those.
big fan of
Right.
shower
The problem is that when you're talking about the shower shots, specifically just for regular anal sex play, just cock inside, nothing crazier than that. What happens is that, first of all, a lot of them don't have the mechanism to control the force of the flow. So you're creating a balloon-like effect, which clearly, obviously, over time, there's issues that
Yeah,
can
that's a
happen
huge
with that.
problem.
Also, you're putting it further than what you actually need. So a lot of people are doing more of a colonic, where you are going to get shit and it is going to look dirty and it's going to take you forever to get clean because the water is going places that you don't actually ever need it to go. So a lot of the mechanism of how we're delivering our solution plus our douche bulb is the volume size is much smaller because just for regular anal play, you don't need a large volume.
Yeah.
Also, not only this is the solution adequate so that you don't cause trauma, but it's teaching you that method of the right way to analyze things. Also, gut health, looking at the microbiome. How do we kind of offset that with exercise, appropriate diet, and supplementation like you do? Take Two, you said, or Pure for Men? Which one
Yeah,
do you
I do it all.
All right.
The Pure for Men's
Do you
fantastic.
take it all? Really?
I really do.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's got one of those grandpa like pill a day things.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
I have the day of the week.
Oh,
pill.
really?
Well, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease last year, and so I've been through the ringer.
Oh, wow.
Where I was on 9 months of antibiotics. I may have mentioned this at ButtCon, but so I was on 9 months of antibiotics with all kinds of yeast infections on top of that and supplements. And I stopped the antibiotics in April, and so now I'm just on supplements and other alternative things to help my immune system, because basically chronic
Exactly.
Lyme is
Yeah.
just keep your immune system. But I was telling
Natasha?
no,
or
Greg. Yeah. I don't know what his title is here.
Greg is my everything.
He's
in
your-
charge of, he's in
go-to.
charge of my whole entire world.
So I met you at ButtCon, but I knew of you through Greg because
Yes.
we have a mutual friend. And so Greg, who works with you, I was telling him, I was like, I had hemorrhoids right after I was done 9 months of antibiotics. And I went to my primary care physician, and I knew they were inside more than just, as I've had outside ones before. And I told her, and she goes, no, there's no such thing as inside hemorrhoids. And I was like, well, what? I was like, you can Google that. And I was like,
I'm no doctor,
I was
but-
like, I think I need to see a specialist. So I went and saw a proctologist who was absolutely lovely. And she was like, I'm going to look at your butthole right now. And just so you know, I see buttholes all day, and I'm not going to remember yours because yours isn't special. And I was like, I kind of liked that answer, because I was
Yours
like,
is very ordinary.
yeah, yours
I've
isn't.
seen special assholes
well,
before.
I would love to hear all about
You're
that.
like, oh my god.
But she told me about banding and like how she was like, your hemorrhoids aren't that bad. Here's a cream that ended up costing me so much money because my insurance is such bullshit. But she was like, do the cream. If it's still bad, then we can ban them or we can surgically remove them, but
Yeah.
they're not that bad.
Oh,
so the
good.
cream ended up doing what it needed to do. And a couple episodes back then, I brought up the banding because I didn't even know there was such a thing
Yeah,
called
it's
hemorrhoid
like,
banding.
it's like rubber bands right
Yeah.
on your hold.
yeah.
It reminds me of like I told Dave, I grew up near a dairy farm that had sheep, and sheeps are actually born with really long tails.
Yeah.
And so when they're born, they actually rubber band
Right,
off
at
their
the
tail.
end, yeah.
And so when she was showing me it, I was like, oh, I know that from sheep. I didn't know that's what you did in my butthole.
You could do that, but I just blog. I blog a lot on Medium.
I did read that you were talking about hemorrhoid band.
Yeah, the problem is a lot of people are going to see surgeons all across the world, and they're not getting the appropriate sexual histories, and they're not asking the appropriate sexual histories. And so what winds
they're
up
missing a lot of
happening is,
information.
and they're missing a lot of information, and the default is to put a rubber band. But a lot of the issues is more because of anal tightness or a fissure, which is a cut in the area. And so one of the manifestations, one of the manifestations of those issues is hemorrhoids, and they flare up. But the problem is that when you band a hemorrhoid, specifically in a gay man or someone that's engaging anally, what happens is it becomes tighter. And it actually doesn't take care of the primary problem. And so it's understanding kind of truly the extent of what the ass is being used for to then understand really what the next step in management is.
And I am a straight woman, but I do love butt play.
Great.
Very much. And because of hemorrhoids and or fissures or things that have happened to my asshole in the past, it's not been that easy for me. Because if it's painful or itchy down there, I don't want something else poking at it.
Totally. But I guess some of the things may be, and we should probably do an episode where I look at your hole, because it may
God,
be... It may be that there is, even though you're not symptomatic right now from a hemorrhoid issue, what happens is if you think of a lumen, right, something is blocking the lumen. So when you're starting to have...
what's the lumen?
Like the hole.
Oh, okay.
Like
That's the name.
the entire canal,
Oh, okay.
right? So if you think of like... the plumbing, we need to have plumbing that doesn't have any friction points. And so if you have hemorrhoids or you have skin tags or you have a cut, what's happening, it's creating more friction. And sometimes people, when they're engaging anally, are having pain. And for all our listeners that are out there, you should not have pain with anal sex. That's a myth. If you are having pain, you're not doing things the right way, or that you may have something like you may have, which is a blockage, and whether or not that small hemorrhoid is actually getting caught every time someone is going in with toys or etc. So the lumen or the canal really just needs to be a smooth cylinder, right? And if there's anything that's blocking that, it can now create that friction which limits you.
Interesting.
And the muscle doesn't know anything other than contracting. So if you have...
because it's trying to make sure you don't poop your pants constantly.
Yeah, and also the fact that if it's getting irritated, then the thing that's getting irritated is right on top of the muscle. So the muscle just squeezes.
Right,
That's
just reacting to the actual.
Exactly. That's why a lot of people with fissures or hemorrhoids, when you have them, you feel like your asshole is super tight.
Yeah.
Right? And that's simply because it's the mechanism of relaxing.
Well, I got fissures so when I got diagnosed with Lyme, they put me on 5 months of the Z-Pak, Zithromax, and penicillin. And within the first week or two of being on that just intense antibiotics, I got fissures because I was shitting nonstop because my gut was messed up. So like I literally turned to my partner and was like, my asshole is falling apart.
There's like construction signs all around it.
So yeah, that was no bueno.
Knock on wood, I haven't had any ass issues.
No, you don't. We're talking about all of us. Are you here still?
Yeah, I'm still here. I've had fingers at my butt. That's about it.
Oh.
And then like maybe like a small little vibrator toy.
Yeah, but
nothing
don't
like
no prostate play. You don't like that?
I mean, my wife is really not into that.
Really?
Oh.
We should get her on the show. Does she listen to this shit?
Yeah, she does. She was on the show.
Really? What's her name?
Her name is Sarah. Oh, Tiny D, but
Tiny
also
D?
Sarah. But if you would look on her face, even bringing stuff up with that is like just that's what I mean. That's what's so funny about it. And like when I see that face, I'm like, I'm not. Why do I? No. Just move on.
You're like, I'm not even gonna deal with it.
Yeah, because it's like when you see that, you're just like, oh, just come on. Like,
I am willing to stick my finger up my lover's butthole, but he won't even let me go anywhere near his hiney. So his asshole is.
You only live once. What the hell? Like, I mean, then it's like okay.
Well, his asshole is so tight that every time he uses the tushy, hours later he burps up water from it because it's
it stays in. It's like a fucking suction device. Oh my god!
And I'm always like, honey, that's because your asshole is too tight.
Wow.
And he'll like shart it out and thinks he's sharting himself, and then he's realizing it's tushy water. And I'm like, oh my god, you're a mess.
That's pretty interesting. I do a lot of Botox work.
Yeah, you were talking about that at ButtCon.
Yeah, so like a lot of people. Well, first off, I think it helps so much from a surgery perspective, post-operatively. So like we were saying before, if you have hemorrhoids or tears, your ass stays really tight. It's the same thing surgically, right? If I'm going to cut your ass, it's going to spasm.
Yeah, of course.
And so using Botox allows the pressures to be
so it just sort of freezes. Does it stop the contractions almost?
Exactly. And there's 3 sets of muscles that are there. I mean, there's more, but 3 major sets in the sphincter that keeps it together. One of those is involuntary, and then the other you can kind of wink and move. Like, do it now. Can you do it? Yeah, you wink.
I'm
winking.
It's like a Kegel.
It's like
it is.
Ding.
It's
if
like
I
a
had a little sound effect. It's like ding.
Yeah, you used to work a lot of stuff. Where is the sound effect?
I'll put that in post.
Oh, okay, good. So, with that being said, the inner muscle is the one that goes into spasm that you can't have control over. So, giving Botox into that muscle allows for relaxation, so that when you're taking a shit, you can now fully relax. But I do a lot of that work with people that are too tight.
Yeah.
So a lot of the questions that people, when they're sitting here in this office that you're in, I ask them, sexual questions, and we talk about where they want to go. But a lot of it is a mental of like, where are you mentally? Because physically you may not necessarily be able to engage anally, but mentally you may be like, I want cock in my ass all day long, right? And so how do I kind of bridge that gap? And some of the people just need some relaxation. We have a great physical therapist here in the office, and he really works on pelvic floor plus anal work. With that, plus or minus, depending upon whether or not I need to add Botox to allow for relaxation. And we put you on like a dilating protocol of stretching and really working that muscle.
Oh, wow.
That muscle is 99.9% of the day in contraction mode. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's holding the poop
holding
in.
the whole day. Yeah. So the issue is, how can you fully relax that and then be able to start allowing you better shits, which that's the name of this.
Well,
program.
yeah, we talk. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't.
I'm all about the good
any kind
shit.
of like annoying straining or like on the toilet is the worst. So,
and we sit all day. Most people hate their jobs. They're stressed the fuck out, and this is where their attention is. Right? It's right in your hole.
In the ass.
In your hole. So we try and help it.
That's awesome.
Now, with a Botox system, or like what you described, like how many, for like a patient that wants to kind of like loosen things up down there, how many like how many treatments is that?
Usually, I usually see it's only one. Actually, it's not a great business model. I know, but no, it's usually one. There are definitely people that I have handfuls that like it, or people that have a disconnect between them and their partners, or the toys, or whatnot. Meaning, like some people's cocks are so big, and they're like new to a relationship, and they can't necessarily take them, but they can take regular size cock, but they want to go further, or they want to go bigger toys, or some people want to go into fists. And one of the things from an anatomy perspective is there's two things to the ass. It's not very complicated. Do you want to know what they are?
Please.
Okay. Yeah. One is skin and the other is muscle. That's it. And so the issue is when you are having sex or shitting or engaging, does the muscle fully relax, or does the skin fully relax? Or is it a combination where your skin gets caught and it tears very easily, or is the muscle too tight? That's basically it. And so when we're evaluating and we're doing Botox, I need to look at, well, are you able to fully relax the skin, that you can take whatever you want, but now the muscle is the limiting factor?
Gotcha.
Or vice versa, or is it a combination? And so where I give Botox is, I give Botox into some of the muscle line and then into some of the skin lines, because I know where the skin is going to tear. There's always two spots, towards the front of the ass, towards the back of the ass. And in women, I'm pointing at you.
Right? Yes, I'm the woman in the room.
You are the woman.
You are.
Because of estrogen, I see it a lot in trans world. So a lot of male to female, and females that are obviously have innate hormones, their skin is so thin.
Yeah, you talked about this at ButtCon, and I was like, so I've told a couple people about it.
Yeah,
like,
and so the tearing capacity is much more in women and or trans women.
Yeah, and trans women, you're pumping in even more estrogen. So,
and also because of that skin thinness that's there, a lot of tearing occurs there. And then from a healing, I need to do certain things because the asshole is very, very close to the vagina, and there's that very, very thin line that connects the two. And when we're doing aesthetics, that location, I need to make sure that I am rejoining that line because it looks really aesthetically pleasing if you do that. And so in women, there's a completely different approach.
There's a tactic, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you're coming more from like a gay man's point of view.
I take care of everybody.
Well, I'm just checking.
Yeah, but it's still very medical. I mean, it's a whole different set of like, I guess,
that's where the sexual wellness comes in, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's just interesting because nobody's ever, I don't think people they don't talk about it.
No.
They don't analyze it the way, I don't know. I look at the ass in a completely different way.
I had no idea about the estrogen thing. I remember you mentioning that, but I was kind of like, what? Like,
and then wet wipes we talk about are like
terrible.
fucking terrible for you.
Really bad.
And then they make your skin so irritated and so thin that it cracks. You can get HPV. You can get, just fucking stay away from that.
I have a bunch of questions and comments and everything. So first of all, when you were talking about like fisting and stuff, I just photographed this dominatrix on Friday because I do a lot of photography for sex workers, and she was like, I have to show you this video, and I've been saving this for you too, Dave. She showed me a video of this guy, just his butthole. She found a butt plug toy that looked like a baby, and she shoved it up his ass and he birthed it out, and it was the most insane video I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to see this. And then I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching.
I can't believe you're telling us and you're not showing it to us.
I wish she could text it to me.
No shame, but that's just, oh man, it
was like the size of a butternut squash.
It
was massive. It was
crazy.
So
that's kind of,
and then she was telling me that was
incredible.
Like the smaller version because it was things that she found on this website. It's all these toys you could stick up buttholes, and she was like, we're gonna get the bigger one for next time. And I was like, oh my god, I love you.
A split second I thought you said she found the baby toy in his butthole. I was like, this guy just walking around with this like baby toy in his ass?
No, she shoved it up there and then he birthed it out.
Well, I think honestly,
and I was like, that's amazing.
Any comments on that, Dr.
Yes.
I know, the fact that I just saw this not even a week ago, right before we're interviewing you.
No, I mean, I think I'm all for anything, but I think you need to understand that when you're doing that from a fisting perspective, from an engagement like that, what's happening is you're going beyond your normal capacity. And if you do that long enough, way beyond, if you do that long enough, and that's where we're also getting into the douching with the shower hose. It's no different. You're kind of creating that huge balloon-like effect where at some point the muscle is not going to go back to its normal strength.
Yeah.
And then you wind up getting complications where you can't shit the right way. You need to use augmented kind of enemas or things to shit. Because
and then you can get like prolapsing.
You absolutely can. Look at you, doctor.
No, I just am so intrigued by
you
prolapsing.
can get prolapse, and a lot of people love prolapse because they
that's
love
terrifying.
to lick it
That's like
and
my,
play with it.
Oh my god, that's like my worst nightmare. I've seen photos
Dave
of that.
And I are both, Dave and I are both big fans of Howard Stern, and he had one of his guys go to Fist Fest.
Yes,
and there's some famous guy Fisto who has a super prolapsed anus that they all make out with.
It's such a major complication, and the reality is that you have to go for major surgery if it's really beyond. And you're probably never going to engage anally the way you want to if you're doing that surgery.
I mean, obviously you're a doctor, but have you had any patients that have come in with really bad prolapse?
Yes.
Like, what do they
and
do?
I send them the fuck out of my office. I'm not going to deal with that.
Really?
No, you actually have to do a surgery that goes through the belly for most of them. So you have to do basically pull it up.
I was going to say sort of like
remove the extra that's there and then sew it back together.
So you cutting in their abdominal?
Yeah, or laparoscopically they do through small instruments.
Gotcha.
So like we're using a robot. And what you can imagine is like, the colon inside is just elongated because it's stretched out.
So the prolapse is just your colon?
Exactly. It's the part of the rectum and the sigmoid colon. And so what happens is just because of the pressure and the loss of all the muscles that are able to hold it in, it's basically just coming out like one of those fucking slinkies.
and
did you play with one of those?
I did play the slinky. I love slinkies. And now I'm just imagining some person coming in with a
or those like water snakes
giant,
that
yeah.
eat
yes.
itself.
But what were those called?
I forgot.
What is one that you used to squeeze and
it
it
used
used
to
to
always
fly out
fly
your
out.
hand? Maybe I was gay when I was doing that, and someone should have said, "Do you like playing with that?" And I was like, "I
you
love
would
it."
stick your finger in it.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
Oh my god!
Why didn't my mother tell me?
I know.
What the fuck?
I mean, I was born in 78. He was in 72. So I feel like
I'm
that
a
was
76er.
Yeah. So like in the 80s, that was like the toy that everybody would get.
I
I had it
remember
in.
that toy.
What color did you have it?
I
was
say
orange. It's orange.
Yes,
You're
orange.
right.
And I just remember you'd play with it so much that it would get dirty, and you'd be like, "I don't want to touch this anymore."
There would be like a pookie or like a ball of like roasters on.
I literally now I'm thinking is that someone's on a surgical bed, and then like all that toy is just in there, and they're like, we don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure this
but
out.
No, you have to go through the belly, and what you wind up, it's a pretty big deal, And so I have a lot of people.
So you will talk to them, but you can't do it.
Yeah, I did for many years, but you really need to be doing that surgery all the time. And so a lot of those surgeons are colorectal surgeons that are doing cancer surgeries and doing a lot of really great stuff. But again, it's like anything, in order to be really good at something, you have to do it all the time.
Yep,
Yeah.
And so if, I'm not doing that all the time, I usually send them to a couple people that I love and trust to do the procedure. But it's literally in the abdomen, take out the colon, that's the problem, sew it back up. And then depending upon at what length they have to stitch it or use staplers, now you can't really stick things up there because of the stapler area. It's strictured, meaning there's a lot of scar there. So it's really debilitating.
And it's something that, like, I guess I'm assuming lasts with you for the rest of your life, or however much you have left. With the scarring, is that something that just goes away, or is it just something?
No, it's always a potential complication. You can get bowel obstructions. You could have issues with it. I think that look, I'm all for pushing the envelope, but there's a lot of things that we do to kind of assist on that. Meaning, like, for instance, let's say you are into prolapsing or rose budding. You know what that
I've heard,
Yes.
I've heard,
Okay.
I've seen that.
Fist fest.
Well, the rosebudding, I think I've seen like on like Pornhub.
Yeah,
I was like,
Well,
what?
you're able to like basically pop all your hemorrhoids and it looks like a rose, and people love to like flick them and play with them.
I remember watching
them.
that thinking like, you know what? I'm square.
Yes. Yes. Well, some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
But the issue with that is that clearly at some point it's going to get to capacity where it's not going to be going back and
Right.
not be as fun. And there's certain things that you need to do to take care of that. But one of the things is, if you are a little bit too loose, or if you are prolapsing a little bit too much, we do have certain things that we can do to help. And you talked about Kegels before, right? But we have a great machine, and a lot of people I know use it. It's called the M-Cella. I think you sat on it, right?
The
Did you
chair.
guys-
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
yes. I wanted to get to that. That
Yeah.
thing was incredible.
Yeah.
So that chair was basically founded off of urinary incontinence and fecal incontinence, which is basically I'm losing urine, or sometimes I shit and I don't mean to. And how do I strengthen the pelvic floor? And so I extrapolated and said, how do we, instead of thinking about fecal incontinence or just rectal incontinence, also bring in sexual incontinence, both vaginally and anally? And so the chair uses a magnet, and it basically contracts your pelvic floor, and depending upon where you sit, it would stimulate that area the most. Ass is my forte. Vagina may be where you want to go. And then penis you can do also, because it actually creates better hard-on.
Well, that's what the person that was
Yeah.
running it was giving us the whole, as we were sitting on it, the whole how-to. What was it, like 12,000 contractions?
Yeah, exactly. It's around 11,000 Kegels within 28 minutes.
Wow.
But the nice thing on a rectal prolapse is that it's not only just doing the Kegels, it sends the magnet rays up into the rectum. So you're actually helping rebuild the muscle internally. So you're able to fully relax and receive babies, which it seems like that guy likes to do. But what you're able to do is now, when you're done doing that, the muscle is back to where it's supposed to be and contracting, and you're prolonging the inevitable surgery if we can.
So it's basically a strengthening tool.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
whether
before
you're
you
using
used
it
to
for
get
anally-
naked and they have to shove up probes and put it all over. Now you just sit clothed. It does it all on its own. It's for 28 minutes, and you do it over a 3-week session. So what you'll do is you'll do 2 28-minute sessions a week for 3 weeks, and the effects are amazing.
Yeah.
Especially for my community of prevention and working with people that are too loose. How do we stimulate? How do you get stimulated and stimulate your partners?
Right.
Some people, the sexual stimulation is minimized just because of overuse. How do we rebuild that and build in the
I
capacity?
mean, I will say, like, there was a sensation I've never felt before. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like, it was literally like getting a workout on your ass
On your hole.
with just by
Yeah, we
sitting.
did it at ButtCon, and the seat was as flat as can be, and then all of a sudden it felt like something was going up
Like a pulse.
inside of you. Yeah.
But it was nuts.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And so,
I
yeah.
have peeing problems, but I think a lot of it is I had hyperparathyroid, which I had removed, and I was peeing all the time from that. And so I think I effed up my bladder. And so Dave can tell you I pee during at least once every
I'm surprised
episode.
you haven't had to stop and pee yet.
I know.
Do you
to
want
wait for it.
to use that as a stop and pee?
No, I probably will, but I'll keep.
she'll let you know. Don't worry.
All right,
They'll
But
be-
like, it's interesting because I do Kegels, but my bladder I think is just messed up from all the
we gotta
sickness
get you
that I've been.
back on track.
I'm a mess.
You are a fucking mess. I don't even know you and your mess. At least you
There's always-
pooped out a beautiful one.
I'm always worried about Ellen. She comes on, there's like a new thing. I'm like, oh my God.
Falling
How do you
apart
guys know
woman.
each other?
Through the burlesque community.
Oh,
My wife
cool.
does burlesque. and
Oh,
then
wow.
We both shoot a lot of people in the burlesque community.
Yeah, we're both photographers.
And that's
But then how did it come up in your conversations that you
About the
guys
shit?
both loved shit?
Well, because I am.
Well, do you tell the story a lot or no?
No, I mean,
No, well, kind of. So I love poop and I love talking about it, but like my partner does not at
I
all.
see.
But I have a handful of friends who are really into talking about it too. So I realized, like, instead of texting them stuff, I decided to start a private Facebook page. And so it started with like 4 of us, and now it's grown into like 40 of us.
Wow.
And basically every time I see somebody and we start talking about poop, I'm like, oh, I have this place for all of us. And so I invited Dave like a year and a half ago. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party and we started cracking each other up, like, because as I call them public poopers, because we
Right.
like to talk about
Talk
poop
about
in
it,
public.
absolutely.
And those people you could literally figure out within 5 minutes. All of a
Wow.
sudden they're like, I took this great shit, I ate this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, hey, you want to be part of this Facebook page? And he's like, yeah, of course I do.
I just love like hearing about like just, I mean, I'm sure they weren't funny at the time, but just funny shit stories.
Yeah,
She's like, I got this Facebook group. And then I think like
And then
a
within
few
like
months after that,
6 months
I
later,
just
you
woke,
were like,
I woke up in the morning, and I just started laughing because I was just like, oh, that'd be funny if someone started a podcast called Shooting the Shit. But then initially it was going to be like about photography, and then we are going to tell like dumb shit stories. And I'm like, well, forget the photography part. Like, because obviously it's on a radio or a podcast. It's not really a visual medium.
Right, you're not going to be able to see it all.
So it's kind of like, let's just talk about like funny shit stories and things. And then that's how it started.
That's
and
pretty
Dave was like, I have
amazing.
this idea. And I was like, do you want me to be a guest or your co-host? And he's like, co-host. And I was like, I'm in.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, that's how we kind of got this shitty thing going.
Shit started.
It's just started, yeah.
That's great.
Literally.
Going back to the future method,
Yeah.
I tried it over the
Oh,
weekend.
yeah. Talked about it.
But I like pooped first, and then I did it. And at first, I feel like I realized like I should stick the nozzle in and then turn the bag upside down so gravity could help suck it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first did it the other way, I thought it was sucking the solution out, but it was just air.
It probably wasn't all the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I stuck it up my butt and then farted out all this air.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So make sure you do it and you have liquid in the bulb.
Yeah, yeah.
But it should, if you push it, regardless of flipping it upside down or not,
the
if
suction.
you, really squeeze the bulb and put it in to engage it, it should fill up.
And then I did it, and I did it again, and nothing came out. So I was actually down in New Jersey, and my neighbors down there are a gay couple, and I told them about it, and I was like, "Am I doing this wrong?" And they were like, "Your butthole's just clean because you pooped that day."
Yes, exactly. And that was the thing. I mean, I think the key is, well, also most buttholes are clean, especially,
I was just hoping
post-shit.
for another
Yeah, but usually
cleanse.
not, because this is, there's a difference between use of this as an enema to cause a shit or evacuate that, and we're trying to get away specifically of that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying. Also, like,
Because
what's
the
the difference
goal is-
between douche and enema?
Right. Well, enemas are for constipation, and enemas are quite toxic
Yeah.
because what they're doing is they're drawing the water out of the cells into the shit, so that now your shit has liquid and it will move. So that's one thing. The other is when you're talking about, and that's why we're trying to get away from like anal douche, because we want it to be more of like a gentle cleanser.
Right.
Because the reality is that it should just be cleaning the rectal area, and there shouldn't be shit there.
Right.
It should just be, especially after you had your poop, right? It should just be a little residual on the walls here and there where you're gently kind of cleansing it. And so some of it is if you're pushing it in all the way too far and then you're really giving it a good push, you may be getting the water too high. And so that's why some people, after they do it once or twice, the third time they're doing it, they feel dirty again because it's getting the shit
Right. So
higher.
it's way up. So it's just coming back down as opposed to like actually.
Exactly. And so
Mine was just super clean. So it was like,
maybe your hole is super clean, and most people don't actually need to actually douche. I think the issue for us is, especially in the anal space, is the phobia and the shame around dirt of shit. I mean, for you love shit, but not a lot of people love shit.
I like talking about it. I don't want to touch it
Oh,
or see
yeah.
it.
Let's clarify.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't need to see it.
Oh, you
But I just
to
like
talk
hearing about it.
We had the
All right.
Bristol stool chart because I'm like,
about
I'd
as much as I
rather
can
hear
handle.
like a number. I don't
see.
need a full on description about where your corn has been.
I get it.
But
the
that
key
said,
is,
still, I agree. It's something that like we don't shy away from. But that's an interesting thing too. Like it's going too far up now.
Yes.
It's kind of,
Well, I thought I did it wrong, but I'm glad to know I didn't do it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key
Just the
component
air.
is, I think one of the things I would try and do is next time that you're having anal play is to do it before then, because that's where you want to see the silkiness of it, the smoothness of it, the non-irritating component to it,
Yeah,
where
what's
now
in
it
it?
aids. So there's a couple of things. One is when you think of water and you think of an enema, think of like a polar opposite spectrum. So you have water on one side and then you have the enema on the other side. Well, both of those are toxic. So the goal is to have what's called isotonic, which is directly in the middle of that spectrum, which is I want to come into contact with a cell. I want to clean the cell, but I don't want to irritate the cell. So that's where we want to be with isotonic. Now, in it is Tegosolve, which is a very, very mild, gentle cleanser, which really helps with all the lipids and the fats and the oils that are in our stool. That kind of stays there, and so it cleans that lining. And then also an extract from a licorice root, which actually has a tremendous amount of soothing capabilities. And so the goal is, if we're doing something that is in itself a little traumatic, is how do we make sure we're using the right solution so there's no harm at the cell level? And then also, how do we make sure it's gently cleansing, but at the same time soothing you? And that it leaves like a really nice silky layer.
Yeah, I did feel that.
Yeah, which is really nice, because then I would be curious if you would like play and engage, because now that you're using lubricants and you feel that, a lot of people love that sensation, because water in the enemas dries you out. It causes cracking. You feel that, and you don't feel as sexy.
So it's almost like you're kind of moisturizing the area before your actual play, and then it's kind of adds like a little bit of
exactly, because you're not washing away that layer of protection. We're kind of just adding to it.
Gotcha.
In that capacity.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah. So we'll have to do it again when you're ready to get bucked.
Yeah. When my asshole is in top shape.
Yeah, tip top shape. It's like then we cut to like a Rocky montage. Your butt getting ready.
Running up
for the
many steps.
Yeah.
What's it called? We had a gay porn star, Chris Harder, on one of our episodes, and he's a good friend of ours, and he was telling me that he would buy the Fleet enemas, dump out the enema stuff, and put water in there to prepare for a scene. And then a lot of things was like diet beforehand and so on and so forth. But
and that's where I think some of it is as well, is making sure that people don't think that it's just anal douching that's going to get you clean. It's not the case. It's which, you take Pure for Men, some fiber supplementation, diet, exercise, really using that in the best way to make sure your GI and gut health is there, keeps the microbiome, keeps you everything in equilibrium, but then using a douche or an anal cleanser as just that, something to just rinse, get you clean, get you feeling sexy, and then ready for the roll, right?
It's like mouthwash for your ass.
Exactly.
But instead of it being like hardcore going to the dentist, you're just doing a little prep.
Yes,
well,
absolutely.
I'm definitely learning. I had no idea that like douching or using an enema was like so bad.
I know.
For your, I just assumed it was like, okay, this is something that's good for, it's healthy.
Yeah, well,
but it's really not.
It's not. And then especially when you look at the STD risk and the HIV risk, it's enormous, and I think it's basically from the douching side.
Wow.
It sets the stage, unfortunately, for infection.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do we all take kind of ownership of our own communities and start to look at them as a risk assessment to say, hey, how do we mitigate that risk by creating products that are different? It goes back to what we talked about with condoms, right? Nobody's using them. So how do we think differently? How do we do medicated lubricants? How do we look at the world in a different way and look at communities in terms of how they engage and say, okay, great, we want you to engage that way, but how do we do it safely? And how do we make sure?
I know Bill Gates has done one thing that we're interested in. He's trying to reinvent the toilet.
Yes,
but he's also put a lot of money towards reinventing the condom.
Yes, 100%.
Which is also really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I saw. Did you watch his documentary?
Yeah, on Netflix. It was fantastic.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I listened to his wife's book on Audible, which is also fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's these simple problems that are not so simple.
Yeah,
because building anything is ridiculously hard.
Completely.
But it's how do we do it for our butts?
Yes,
right?
It's incredible. It's just amazing.
And I love my butt.
We know you love your ass. We know you love your ass.
Do you have any tips for people with hemorrhoids?
Yes. Fiber supplementation, make sure you're shitting the right way, which is, I feel like I have to poop. Great. Sit down, go. It should come out within 30 seconds or less. If it does not, stand up. Go on with your day. Drink some water. If you feel the urge to poop again, do it again. No Insta. No social. I'm such a bad.
I do that sometimes.
Of course.
I'm like reading a book there. I'm
right.
like, what?
But the problem is that if you're sitting too long, more blood is going to go down there. Same thing on a sex perspective. When you guys are orgasm and you're coming and you're playing, don't be all squeezing and creating pelvic floor contractions anally. Sometimes it can cause hemorrhoids, especially for prolonged anal play or prolonged toys. Also, like at the gym, I see a lot of weightlifters have problems because from squatting. And so again, it's like, how do you contract your beautiful glutes but leave your pelvic floor and your asshole relaxed? Not easy.
I was doing a bunch of strength conditioning for a while with a coach friend of mine, and he was having that. Not him, but like some of his students were having the same issue, and this CrossFit gym I used to belong to started doing a whole pelvic floor like class,
and it makes sense,
especially with squatting under a lot of weight. Because you're tensing up,
100%.
You're doing a bunch of things that like you probably would normally do, but you just feel like that's the only way I'm going to get out of this situation. And like they really went through and like gave a whole class on pelvic floor.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because like that's an issue. Like
100%.
Like,
and I say, and I know you won't do it, but what you could do is you could stick a small butt plug up your ass and do squats with the plug in, trying to do the squat, and while you're doing the squat, the plug falls out. So I'm able to contract my actual butt, but relax the pelvic
so
floor.
You should not be that thing should not be in there.
Exactly. It should be like it loose enough that it falls out on its own, and that's how you're able to know that you're actually doing the appropriate type of squat or thrust or kettlebell. So I think there's a lot of stuff for hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
Also, I think seeing somebody, if it's something that is still a major issue, also don't be ashamed of the fact of if you know, some people have hemorrhoids and tags and they can't clean the right way. They feel dirty. You feel it when you're walking around. And especially in women, from a sex perspective, it can cause vaginal issues where you're not feeling sexy. It gets irritated, all of that jazz. So, I mean, I think the thing is also knowledge on what a hemorrhoid and skin tag is. And then knowing that there are people out there like me in the practice of Bespoke that understand the bias and judgment and etc., and then also understand how shameful it is and how do we kind of break down those barriers.
Well, I was just hanging out with a friend of mine and he had that question. If you know the difference between a hemorrhoid and an anal wart, you as a doctor, but as a person, is there like, because he went to a doctor and the doctor was like, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yes. So clearly there is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes people use wet wipes, like we spoke about, and they have extra skin from skin tags like hemorrhoids. And sometimes it's difficult because the irritation that's caused, you can't tell, is it just a skin tag or a hemorrhoid that's there, or is it an anal wart or HPV? Most of the time you can tell. Wart looks like kind of cauliflower.
Okay.
In a little bit more of an irregularity, whereas skin tags literally look like your anal skin, but just a little bit more of it.
A little smoother
and a little
than
bit
cauliflower. Okay.
Yeah. But I do see a lot of people who come to me saying, oh, I have these anal skin tags. And then I look and I'm like, those are not skin tags. Those are anal warts.
And now they changed it in 2019. Everybody should be doing their HPV vaccine because it's 45 and under.
Correct.
Yes.
But I think especially in the anal space, every person should get the vaccine.
Yes.
And I get questions a lot, which is one...
Even straight men should get the vaccine.
I'm okay.
I mean, he wasn't
I'm not
looking
sitting here.
at you like
I'm not like
that.
I'm not all defiant. Like I will never get that.
No.
No, but I've yelled at my partner too, and I'm like, go to the doctor, get that vaccine.
So I think two things that people are kind of misknown about, which is one, you would think that we all have the HPV already, so what's the vaccine going to do to benefit me? Well, the vaccine has 9 different types in it. The likelihood that you have all 9 is quite low, so you will clearly benefit. Also, especially in the bottoming space, I see a lot of people where sometimes the warts or HPV are quite aggressive, where just getting the vaccine creates like an immune response where the body's able to fight off and prevent worsening or recurrence of warts.
Wow.
And when you look at the newest literature, especially in the HIV positive populations, it actually mitigates cancer risk just by getting the vaccine, almost by 80%.
Really?
Wow.
So it's pretty impressive.
And I know it's also throat cancer, so that's why I'm
100%.
saying straight men can get it from eating pussy.
100%.
So yeah, that's
I
what
can
what happened to Michael Douglas.
It happens to a lot of people I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you suck, you lick, you play.
I love it all.
Well,
Of course.
I'm making an appointment with my doctor,
You should. Actually, open your mouth.
Dr. Casano.
Open your mouth.
Well, when the HPV vaccine first came out, it was 26 and under.
Yes.
And I was like 27. And I remember asking my doctor, I was like, can I do this? And he was like, yeah, but you have to pay out of pocket. And I was like,
but it's really worth the $200 each shot. I know it's a lot.
Well,
but
back
it's really
then
worth doing it, of
I didn't
course.
have the money. And
but I do. Oh, no, I shouldn't say
But
that.
now that I was 45, But now that it's 45 and under, I'm only 41.
Right.
I
but
went
I
right
think,
to my doctor.
Yes, but the thing is, I think this podcast is great because you're empowering people. Most physicians don't know that you should be getting it up to the age of 45. So you should go to them and say, hey, this is what I need and this is what I should get.
The doctor never once brought that up, ever.
I brought it up to my doctor and she was like, yes, I've been telling everybody to get it. So
yeah.
Okay.
Do it. It's a good thing.
yeah. As soon as I heard that.
Okay. I'm going to make an appointment.
It's good for you. We should all get vaccinated.
And I think in the beginning, that's what I was going to say. In the beginning, I feel like the insurance company did choose 26 and under because financially, even though the data, but it was the data by them. So
of
realistically,
course.
it's such bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think that now that we have other people that are spearheading good data, you see, and the problem is like
it should be 150 and under.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And realistically, I think especially in the anal and gay space, they don't really study my community.
No.
And so what winds up happening is like, we don't really know. If you look at the HPV data, it's all over the map. And the reality is if you look at the gay data of that, it's like so overwhelmingly in our favor to get it. But again, it's like,
but it also should be 100
companies.
and under because there are so many retirement communities that have
Absolutely.
STIs like crazy.
They fuck like
banging like
rabbits.
crazy.
And because
Crazy.
they're because they their partner passed away.
Absolutely.
And then they meet somebody new and they're like, I can't get pregnant.
And they're like horn dogs.
yeah, and then they're
like,
getting
I'm
all
old. They're like,
kinds of
fuck
And they have
STIs.
dementia, and they're like, did I fuck you yet?
Yeah.
No, let's do it again.
I mean, it's like they're probably just like, I'm on the back nine of life, so they're probably like, fuck it.
That's
Yeah, but
exactly
you don't want
it.
any STIs in that back nine.
No.
No, but it's definitely rampant.
Yeah.
All right, let's get it into the elderly.
I do really should go potty really quick.
Yeah.
Go do your thing. So, Ellen's back from her potty break.
Because I always have to pee. Because I'm
Yes.
trying to always hydrate, but I feel like my bladder's
over.
so fucked up from the hyper. You know what a parathyroid does? Your calcium.
Yeah.
One of my 4 turned into a tumor.
Oh, wow.
And I had to get it surgically removed or it was going to kill me. But most of my 30s, I was sick
It's like
all the
moans,
time.
bones, groans, and all that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's going to be on her solo album. What's the name of her first album?
Drop
Bones,
it. Drop
groans,
it.
and bones.
Yeah.
What kind of toilet paper do you like? And do you like over versus under?
Ooh, I like bidets.
Oh, yes. I just went potty in your bathroom here in your office, and you have the
I love
tushy.
Tushy.
I love that
in
thing.
my old apartment, we had a Toto.
Oh,
which
God
that
bless.
was like the gold.
Look at you, Mr.
the
Fancy Pants over
crazy.
here.
Oh, yes,
That's
yes.
that's like my goal in life is to have one of those.
Oh,
That's,
that was so great. The problem is that like now we don't have that, which is all good. I have a Tushy, and that's perfect, and I love them. But it's just kind of interesting when you're sitting on that thing.
you went
it's
from like a Porsche to like a Honda.
I get it.
They both get you to where you got to go.
It was one of the things when we sold the apartment, my partner was like, do you think we can take the Toto? And I was like, no, they want that.
Yeah, who
So,
wouldn't?
and then I don't know, I have to ask Anna what she buys, but I think it's Charmin. And I am a behind wiper, but I'm not a real wiper. I'm
No,
a
when you
patter.
hang it on your roll.
Yeah.
Do you hang it where it hangs over?
I get it.
Or under?
Over.
Over? Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Over, I find
He's an
it.
under, I'm an over.
Yeah, I find the over.
We did a whole episode about
But
this.
actually, I take it off the ring when I'm using
Oh.
it. I kind of
So
like
you
to
like-
put my finger in the fucking hole.
Someone else mentioned that too. That
I
they do
like that. I like to hold on to
Yeah,
it
you're
and
just like,
feel it. You know?
Tactile.
Exactly. But then I don't really try and wipe so much. I try and pat.
Yes.
Because, the wiping mechanism is what causes a lot of trauma.
And also the bidet kind of takes care of most
Exactly.
of the.
Yeah.
Which because of Tushy, I got the bamboo toilet paper
Oh,
with,
yes.
and I loved that. It's perfect.
And you're doing lots of wonders for the environment, which is lovely.
Yeah, but it's tough enough that you
Yeah.
just need to pat the water away.
That's great.
Great. And your partner, I'm assuming, is okay with all your butt stuff.
He doesn't have a fucking choice.
But and you have kids. Is there fart and poop humor ever in the house?
Yes, actually, Phoenix.
And I mean, you
Phoenix,
have 2 boys.
Yes, 2 boys. They're almost 8. Phoenix came home and says, Dad, can you spell this? And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I cup. And I was like, I see you pee. And he starts dying laughing. And I was like, dude, he's like, did you have that when you were a kid? I was like, everybody had that when you were a fucking kid. And he thought it was like the greatest thing
He's like, I just found the best thing, this new thing.
God.
That's hilarious.
Do I think that Andy, yeah, I mean, you know, it gives us our lives. We have a great life together.
I mean, having two young boys, they must be very potty. So I feel like boys are more potty humor than girls
yes,
are.
very much so. And they have very good regular bowel movements. Though Sebastian usually is like the number 2 kind of bunch of grapes because he never drinks enough water and it pisses everybody off. But you know, it is what it is. But I think anally, you know, everybody always asks me, can you sexually, like, you're looking at ass all day, does it interfere with your sex world and things like that? And I think the reality is like, when you see a really beautiful ass, you're going to be attracted to it. And thankfully, Andy still has a beautiful ass. So it's perfect.
Amen, Andy.
Andy's still in it. He's still in it.
I love it.
When that goes, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll check back in. You're like, Andy's butt asses.
You know, at this point, he knows we talk about him, but what is he going to do?
Yeah. And wait, so how long have you been doing Bespoke Surgical?
It's been about 10 years, but I'd say usually
and what were you doing before that? Like, when did you really get into...
I finished training, and then I was doing general surgery, where I was doing a lot of different things until I really realized... I actually was studying heart surgery in Sinai. I fucking hated it. And I was miserable. And I was like, this is not for me. And then that was spawned Bespoke and the practice, but it was basically general surgery. And then I really worked with hospitals and figured out what I wanted to do, and then slowly started to, because nobody taught me the right way to actually create this world. I had to learn it and kind of study it and put the science behind it, and then that's what spawned. But I'd say like 5 years of really pushing ass.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
People always tell us that this podcast, we're doing God's work.
Yeah, people say that.
And I think you are most
We have
definitely
got a
doing
couple emails
God's
about
work.
Yeah, you are, though. That's
It's
like
super interesting, you know. I mean, I think, you know, helping people is amazing. It gets me up every day of, you know, how do I get people to where they want to be? And then when you do that, even if it's, you know, people are like, oh, well, it's just operating on the ass. But, you know, when you take the ass away from somebody from a shitting perspective and a sexual perspective, specifically in the anal gay community, it is catastrophic. It ruins relationships. It ruins your own sanity.
Yeah, I mean,
totally.
And I'm shocked there. I mean, it's crazy that you have this amazing practice, and I'm shocked that there wasn't anything before it.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's just like,
it's unbelievable.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Like it's,
and you know, especially with Future Method, when I was shopping it around from a financial perspective and raising capital, people are like, are you sure this doesn't exist? Why the fuck doesn't this exist?
Well,
and
it's
you
even like the tushy.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
The fact that I was using baby wipes a year ago,
Right.
and because of our podcast, he told me about tushy because his wife also works for a magazine, and she interviewed Mickey a couple of years ago when she first started it. And so I went to his house, and I was like, why aren't everybody have these? Like, it's
amazing.
It's crazy
I
that
know.
in
it's the simplest
2018,
things
19,
that obviously take a lot of, like, you know, time and energy, but it's just like once they're there, you're like, how did I not live without this?
And I think that that's where a lot of this, and why we do a lot of podcasts and are doing a lot of popular press and writing, is just trying to get it out there through our Instagram. So if you're listening and you want to know more about ass, Bespoke Surgical is great.
We'll put it all over our Instagram.
Yeah. I blog a lot about the stories on Medium of great clients that come to me with ridiculously crazy tales, and literally, and it's called Tales from the Tail.
Ooh,
we gotta check that out.
Yeah, check it out.
And do you have any funny accident stories, especially dealing with butts?
Yes. Well, I think I was just traumatized in New York. You know, in New York, there's the marathon.
Oh yeah, I've run it.
Oh, you run it?
2016.
Okay, great. Well, when I was 12, my parents would every year, we go November. I think it's November, right? Mm-hmm. And I forget, it goes up First Avenue or Second Avenue.
It goes down First Avenue into the Bronx.
Yeah. Well, we would be at like 72nd and First on the east side, and we're on our spot. We're taking a look, and I just remember looking at this man, and he just lifted up his like shorts and just fucking took the biggest shit I have ever seen. Now, I am fucking 12 years old, and it is like a log. It was probably like what you shit yesterday, right?
Monday,
and it literally just like, he just pulled his like shorty shorts. This is like 19 80s. So,
Yeah.
you know, those really
Oh,
short
super
shorts,
shorts.
super short. And he literally just like, I remember it was red and he just pulled it back and this fucking thing just landed on First Avenue on the ground. And I was mortified.
I would be.
I was
And
traumatized.
New York
Imagine-
in the 80s is a
Yeah,
mess.
and imagine the people behind him.
Oh my God. It was, and you know, now today I hear a lot of stories of people like that you gotta go when you gotta go. And sometimes it's diarrhea and they just
It's-
like shit themselves. It's just a mess.
It's gross.
It's a mess.
So, one of the first races I did in Central Park, beautiful like fall day, like 8 o'clock in the morning. The race hasn't even started yet. There's this one woman. I'm guessing she's probably like in her late 70s, early 80s. She's like a fixture at these races. She wears like those like weird like tights.
Yeah.
So the race has yet to begun. I'm talking to my friend who's getting ready for this race, and I look over and she has shit running down her legs. We haven't even started yet, and the second the gun went off, she's like, race mode.
That's it.
No, I'm gonna clean myself
You
up.
fucking runners are crazy.
I was like, I've never shit my pants running.
well,
It's yet to happen. It's almost happened.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
I mean, for the podcast, Ellen's like, please let this happen, but it is yet to happen. That being said, you know, who knows?
But personally, yeah, I mean, I usually have some ones where it's like, you gotta go, you know? I mean, sometimes you just gotta go. And I remember camping, you know, they never teach you, like, when you're camping, that if you're shitting uphill, like, well, what happens to the poop? It's going to roll downhill, right? So it's like, you know, I mean, certain little things that you realize. But I did have the best shitting experience of my life.
Ooh.
I will tell you this.
Please.
When I was on a trip through my camp off the Colorado River, and we're camping, and the Colorado River is very cold, and it's rapid. I mean,
Yeah.
it is now fucking around. And so at the girls' camp, you know, the girls' camp was shitting downhill, was down the river, and then boys was up. And so they have, like, you know, the potties that you bring with you,
Yeah.
and they say whatever. So there's a magazine, an Archie or a Mad or something, and I'm sitting down, and I'm literally, the river's running past me, the sun is coming up, and it is like, and my shit is perfect, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing. And all of a sudden, like 2 boatloads of people are rafting past me, and I stand up and my dick is out and I'm like naked and I'm like, yes, I'm screaming, and they just had, I mean, it was no concept of like what was going on, and it was like, and I swear to God, if I think about it, I was there, I'm still there. I mean,
You're living your best life right then.
It was awesome. It was like the best shit, the best experience.
I love shitting
ever.
outside, like in nature.
It's the best.
It's like amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why the Tushy travels so good.
Yeah, I would have loved to. That's just like
In the boat, and the
Like,
boat was
the
like
boat going
taking their
by.
oars, and they were like smacking the water, and they were like, yes, and I was like,
do you.
yes.
You do you.
I was like, this is great. My dick is flopping around. It was awesome.
You had the best time.
It was
Camp.
amazing. So that's one of the stories.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome. And besides Future Method, are there any other products you suggest to?
Like an endorsement?
No, you don't. It doesn't have to be like endorsement. Like you just said, fiber supplements.
Yeah,
are
I
great.
love Take Two
But-
and Pure for Men. I think
Uh-huh.
that they're really great. I think you have to figure out what's best for you. There's so many different varietals that are out there. I think obviously the Tushy is really great because it's effective and it's inexpensive and it's easy to install, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think obviously we're looking from a Future Method perspective of lots of different things that are coming out, like different products to support engaging before sex in terms of preparation, then the engagement, and then after sex, how do we now use creams, lotions, scrubs, appropriate
Yeah, like what's
stuff?
the best lube?
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna
Lordy.
say that's probably like. I mean, there's probably all kinds of like.
There's tremendous amounts, but it depends on what you're using. So water-based lubes are really great for toys, but it's also good for cleanup. It's easier. It doesn't stain, right? Silicone itself is really amazing from a lubricant, but it gets dirty, your sheets stain, and it takes forever to come off. But from an anal sex perspective, cock in ass silicone is really the best. It really is. It gives great lubricity. But, you know, some people don't like the silicone. They feel like there is some element of
What
potential.
about things like coconut oil?
Yeah, so I think, a lot of those oils you just got to be careful with because they're really not supposed to be internal. So a lot of those people use them for massages and play externally, which is perfect. But internally, they are, depending upon what they are, could be quite toxic. So you just got to be careful. And some of the oils themselves break down condoms, break down toys. Same thing with silicone if you're using for toys. So it really just depends on
what you're doing.
Yeah, what's your forte.
Yeah.
Cool.
What else?
Amazing.
Is there anything else? I mean, some of this.
We covered so much good
I
stuff.
know we have so much stuff.
Well,
what is that
we
last
could-
thing? If they are in a relationship, what's that?
Oh yeah. How does your partner do with poop talk? But we talked about
Oh
that.
yeah. Andy doesn't care.
I mean, if you have kids,
I guess I can ask him if he cares, but he doesn't really give much
He's
answer.
got no
But, like,
choice.
He's got no choice.
Dave's wife listens to the podcast. My partner thinks that we're insane and that I'm a crazy person that I even started this podcast. But he was on it and he had great stories.
Yeah, he had a great time.
He did have he
had a
full
great
of shit.
time.
Full of shit.
But
He loved it.
like tried listening to 5 minutes and he's like, how anybody can listen to a podcast full of shit like that is crazy to
And
me.
do people listen to your podcast?
Yes.
We do. We're getting listeners.
We get people telling us it's just like some people we have partners that are into it and
Yeah,
other
and then
partners
others that are not.
are like polar opposites.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you guys for having me.
we have two more little
quick little segments.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
We
We'll just do
do
it real
a thing
fast.
called Let's Get Shitty, where you get to complain about anything you want to complain about. The Let's Get Shitty does not have to be poop related, or it can be.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for Let's Get Shitty!
That time of the show again. We get to complain.
Yes, because it's been a blast the entire time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
This has been great. Am I supposed to do the Let's Get Shitty?
Yeah, if you want to complain about stuff.
All right,
It's
I'll
all completely
complain.
voluntary. You don't have to if you don't like to, but if you want, please.
Well,
jump
I'm going to
in.
complain about societal norms and what people's ideals of normalcy is, which is fucking bullshit. Because
Amen to that.
I think specifically nowadays, one of the things that we're battling with kind of gay issues is censorship, though, America's land of the free and all this shit. But at the end of the day, you can't talk about or publish on Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so much censorship from these current new algorithms that's inhibiting people's medical and scientific worlds and just bringing risk down for communities. And I think I can understand that there needs to be some element of censorship as it relates to certain ways in which we engage in the world. I understand that. But when we have scientific data, we have valid data, we have risk tools to kind of get out to communities, and you try to do God's work by putting it out there, and then people just say, fuck you for being innovative. We're just going to squash you and keep you down.
completely.
That's shitty.
I mean, we both photograph naked women. I'm constantly shadow banned. I posted the cover of my new book. I'm not trying to plug my book, but I posted it on Facebook today. And before I could even finish the post, a thing came up that said, we're used to you posting this kind of content and we're going to ban you. Do you want to edit your post? And I was like, are you kidding me? It's
I
the
know.
cover of a book that
know.
there's no
silly.
nudity on
It's
it.
just really silly.
No,
'cause
it's frustrating, and I completely agree. And especially when you are literally doing God's butt
Yeah.
work, you
Which
should
But
be
nobody
able
cares. That's the problem. I mean,
They will.
No, they do care
Yeah.
because they want everything to be so puritanical.
That's true.
But like when you're on your social media, you should be able to say, yes, I'm older than 18 and I'm okay with looking
Put
at
a
stuff.
simple filter up.
Yeah.
It's people do all the time.
But it's also on advertising, and it's also on popular press, and it's like, talking about sexual issues or shit as we're doing here is not a bad thing, and we're able to do it professionally.
It's
You're
something
able
everybody
to-
does.
Right.
It's a normal function, and I think that people just get this whole thing where it's just so taboo.
Exactly.
But it's just silly, and I'm 100% with you on that one. It's
So that was a good
ridiculous.
shitty one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was brilliant.
Excellent.
Oh, good.
My Let's Get Shitty is just the fact that my cramping this week has been so bad, and I don't know if it's period cramp, but yesterday I literally could not do anything in the middle of the afternoon, and it felt more like I needed to take a poo, but nothing was happening.
I'm sorry.
So I have a shitty tummy,
Oh, we're sorry.
Well,
I'll give you a hug after the podcast.
and then look at my butthole and tell me what's wrong with it.
I can do that.
my Let's Get Shitty is, again, the New York City subway system. I mainly work from home, so I don't have to deal with a normal commute. But getting here was a disaster. The amount of people that just don't move out of the way. I'm like,
That's the fucking worst.
It-
just let me off the
I'm like,
goddamn
can I just
subway.
It's like getting on or off. I'm like, this is the simplest part. I'm like, all you got to do is move out of the way, and you would think I'm asking for them to like drive the train.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
So you know,
Well,
or the
look,
backpacks.
Yeah.
The fucking backpacks. Do you guys take your backpacks off?
Yes.
I had
Yes.
the giant.
Please take your backpacks
My-
off.
I take it
man.
off and I put it between
Yeah,
my
of
legs.
course.
I had my backpack
Yes.
filled with audio equipment. I took that thing off before I even got on the train, and the guy next to me, no such luck.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm
you
like,
know
this
what?
guy's shit is like in my face.
You know what the best thing
time.
is? One of my trainers,
Oh.
he's just like, you know what, Evan, fuck it. Anytime I see a backpack, I just like walk right through it, you know,
Yeah,
and
well-
just push him out of the way.
I mean, I think it's fair game.
Did you grow up in the city?
I grew up in and out of the city. I grew up in a suburb in New Jersey.
Because
And then
Dave and
moved
I have
back.
both been living here for 23
Yeah,
years.
me too.
And I have gotten just to the point where I will literally walk onto the subway and push people out of the way, or I'll just be
Oh, yeah.
like, "Get out of my way!" Like the city just will
I know.
turn you
It's
into a mean person like
everyone
that,
needs
but-
to be on like weed or something like that.
But the here in New York City subway system is just
It's the worst.
It's convenient, but it is the fucking worst thing ever.
And
So-
today, the number one train got the brakes pulled, and it was like an
What?
emergency. I wasn't on it,
Oh.
but I was waiting for it with Sebastian to the point where like I had to get in an Uber, which was like triple the price
Yep.
because of the rain, and then we took it down. It was just, you know, it is what it is. But you
It's-
know what? You put your boots on and you just go.
yeah.
you just do it. You suck it up and you do it. Well, with that, we're gonna flush those problems away.
Yes. Now we feel better.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So we have one last segment. It'll be quick.
It's our news.
It's our little news segment.
Yeah.
There
hold
is
up.
so much in the news, real normal like news about poop and farts. It's insanity. We could do a whole episode on just news
Okay, so
articles.
what's something
Here
that
we
need
go.
to
So
know?
here's our
I'm gonna
new
play it
one.
right now. Here we go.
I like you with your papers.
So this news story comes from Tekrabyte.com, reported by Navin Bondade. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It could be Bondade, but I'm thinking it's Bondade. It just sounds funnier. Title: The new AI toilets will scan your poop to diagnose your ailments. So this kind of fits in. It's
Yeah,
medical, it's
very
technology,
cool.
it's innovation. So basically, there is a company that is a company called Micron is developing a smart critical intelligence powered toilet that reportedly will be able to diagnose your state of health and risk of disease by analyzing your bodily waste.
Oh my god, I need it.
You would be then fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't even know about it all
I
the
don't
time.
even, you know, maybe even crazier than you currently are right now. It's like, okay, yeah, so.
So the major goal of this technology is to analyze bowel movements and recognize the signs for health issues and ailments early on. The information will also be used to understand the early symptoms of certain diseases. Quote by Sanjay Malrahata. I'm definitely destroying that guy's name. I apologize.
okay.
He is the chief executive of memory chip maker Micron Technology. He says, imagine smart toilets in the future that will be analyzing human waste in real time every day. You don't need to go to you don't need to go visit a doctor every 6 months, that seems a little extreme to me for a fucking
Have
toilet.
you been to the doctor though for every 6 months for your shit
no,
problems?
no. And this
Okay.
toilet apparently is going to replace my doctor.
Well, I think it's probably like what Bill Gates wants to do.
Yeah.
Which is how do we put that into environments where
Exactly.
there is significant risk?
I mean, basically, he's just saying that like any sign of disease that starts to show up, your toilet will be able to sort of analyze.
But the thing is, it's interesting because I mean, there's so much normal bacteria that is actually good for you.
Yeah.
And so the question is like, how does it really truly filter the good shit from the bad shit?
Yeah.
Right.
whatever system they have in there is supposed to be to monitor all this stuff like that. It's supposed to spot patterns. The AI system can also spot everything from diabetes symptoms to checking in to various causes of dietary concerns.
Wow.
This is kind of interesting.
So yeah, I mean, this is something they're working on. I don't know where Micron is out of. I'm guessing India, but I don't want to assume anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume anything.
But yeah, this is a new toilet that's going to be unleashed into the world. It's supposed to be like a doctor in the house.
Wow, that's great. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that news.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
and with
exciting.
that, Dr. Evan Goldstein, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
for
We
being on the
learned
podcast.
so much today.
We did. And you are doing truly God's work.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
And
you
my
guys
butthole
too.
thanks
Thanks for
you.
helping promote everything.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, of course.
You guys are rock stars.
Yeah, you are. I mean, please, we have a podcast about talking about shit. So
Yeah, but it's so important. We need to talk about shit. We need to talk about all these issues. People need to know that there are professionals and people that understand. And how do we just make the world a better place?
Yeah.
well said, well said. So where can we find you?
Sure. So I have an office here in New York, 12th Street, 44 East 12th.
It's
in
a
New
beautiful
York.
office, by the
It
way.
is gorgeous.
Thank you. And then in LA and Beverly Hills. In terms of on social channels, we are obviously Bespoke Surgical on Insta, Facebook, the like.
The like. Okay.
The Future Method is the product side of what we're doing, so take a look at that. Both of them have a really great content on education and support and all things anal. And then on Medium, I do a lot there weekly. I write a blog called Tales from the Tail, and it just really goes over a lot of issues, whether it's psychosocial, emotional, and physical for all communities, trying to break the taboos and talk to people about what we're trying to accomplish.
Excellent.
I love it.
Well, you couldn't have been a better guest. We thank you for inviting us into your office.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was fantastic talking to you.
We'll have to do it again.
Yes.
Yes.
A follow.
Well,
Well, I'll have to do a
next time-
follow-up when I'll try my future method.
Yes, and then we should
give
just
a
do an
report back.
exam of your hole. I'm curious to
Yes.
see
Oh my
it.
God.
I'm down.
Will you look at it?
Yes.
Oh.
I
You're
mean,
going to look at my butt?
well, I can look at maybe I can look at like a photo of it or something.
We can look at it in real time. Fuck it.
like
We'll
a-
see you then, everybody.
Look out for that one.
Oh my God.
Um,
I mean, I did technically, I talked about this on another podcast. I took a photo when I was 21 years old of my backside, and it ended up, because I was like squatting, my butthole was there. And instead of being embarrassed by it, I actually showed it in my thesis class.
That's awesome.
And then I gave it to nerve.com back in the day. They had a magazine and they printed it in the
Wow.
magazine, but they censored it because their printers wouldn't show my butthole.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so my
maybe we can
butthole
put
has
it
been
up.
out there.
Should we
Your
put it
butthole-
out there?
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
can you get it?
What?
Where's the original?
I have it in my storage
We'll
unit.
we'll post that,
I'll
baby,
get it.
At it.
on our
Well,
Instagram feed.
we can't post it because
Well,
we'll get
We'll
flagged.
just
Well-
put like a little sticker or something there, but
Yeah.
still, they'll know it
but
is.
me and my butthole have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
On that note,
On that note.
good night, everybody.
Thanks for
Yeah,
listening.
thank you so much.
I appreciate
And,
This has
it.
been great. Happy pooping, everyone.
All right.
And toot toot toot. Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to Shooting the Shit with Dave and Ellen. You can listen to us on platforms like iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and even YouTube. Please download, rate, review, and subscribe to any and all of those places, and tell all your friends about us.
For more about Shooting the Shit with Dave and Ellen, you can check us out at heypoopypodcast.com. For questions, product reviews, information, please email us at heypoopypodcast@gmail.com. And you can see us on Instagram at heypoopypodcast.
Theme song by Jordan Pearlson. Hey, Poopy.
Oh, that was gross.
Very wet.
Oh my God. Okay.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
Man, I'm just, trying to find a place with like-minded people to talk about like-minded things about me or about poop and stuff.
Hey Poopy, how you doing? Hey Poopy, how you doing?
Oh man, what's this right here? Is this a podcast about poop?